Welcome to this shortwave hangout, unannounced hangout that we're tuning the bands. So we're going to tune the shortwave bands today in this unannounced hangout. This is Oman.
جلالة السلطان المعظم حفظه الله ورعاه وتلقى مزيدا من برقيات التهاني بمناسبة العودة المباركة لجلالته إلى أرض الوطن. ممثلا لجلالة السلطان المعظم سمو السيد أسعد بن طارق السعيد يترأس وفد السلطنة في أعمال القمة العربية السادسة والعشرين.
We're going to start tuning from about 10 megahertz and up. As at this time of day, first of all, we're located here in Montreal, Canada, which is northeast part of North America, and the time 1900 hours UTC. Clock is okay, so if you want to verify when we're live, the clock is the best time. This is UTC time, and it's 3 p.m. local time, so it's mid-afternoon, and we are tuning the bands.
Showers in the vicinity, feeling 1,000 welcome, 1,500 overcast. From 2000 Zulu, wind 320 at 11, visibility more than 6, feeling 1,500 overcast. From 0000 Zulu, wind 330 at 7, visibility more than 6, feeling 2,500 overcast.
Hey there, Tom, from your great website. By the way, if anyone wants to see great videos, Tom Hamrad 88, HAMRAD 88, great YouTube channel. Welcome, Tom. We're tuning the bands, so if you got anything special in your part of the world that you're listening to, you can share it with us. I'm starting at 10 megahertz and tuning up live. I'm going to see what signals we can hear right now. It's 3 p.m. here, 3:03 p.m. mid-afternoon. My antenna is the about 50 feet long wire I have in my backyard.
You're back at the 89 or 1 here, so I'll check. Greenhouse flight calling me up. Say again the flight number, please. New York is Greenhouse 120. Okay, Greenhouse 120. Yeah, go ahead.
This is 11396. Upper sideband is the North Atlantic frequency, and you are hearing New York communicating basically with all the airplanes over the Atlantic Ocean.
Greenheart 120, copy over Amala 1900, level 360, estimating Summers 1947. NASA is next, fuel 17.0. And stand by for Summers frequency. Nautical miles before Summers, Miami is on 134.35.
Yeah, Andrew, hi, welcome to the Hangout. And yeah, that's website, priom.org, PRIYOM.org, is really fantastic with, you know, the live schedules of the number stations and so on. I didn't know that website before. I never heard of it. I don't remember who it was exactly. I remember that he was from France. It's all I remember is that it's a guy from France that actually relayed that website, and it's unfortunate I don't remember his name, but yeah, it's a great website. I've been enjoying it also. I've been going through the site. There's a lot of stuff on it also, which is really cool. So 11396, this is New York air traffic control for North Atlantic airplanes.
Request confirm altitude. Yeah, we're altitude 340. Yeah, copy 340. New York Delta 657. Delta 657, standby JetBlue 1221 here. 1221. Go ahead. Blue 1221. Obama 1901. Zulu, flight level 370. Estimation number is 1948. Zulu, Zulu Quebec Alpha, next to on board, 4. JetBlue 1221 over O'Malley 1901, level 370, estimating Summers 1948. Zulu Quebec Alpha is next. 24.9 for the fuel. At Summers, Miami is on 134.35. 134.35 at Summers. That's blue. Delta 657 here. Here. Delta 657 here. Delta 657 for the close. 1904, flight level 350.
Hello, Susan. Welcome to the Hangout from the email. And yeah, it's true. I was thinking about that also while I was tuning the airplanes. It's really terrible that airplane crash in the Alps. It's really unfortunate. And the more we get the details of what probably went wrong, and the more it's incredible, you know, thinking that the co-pilot probably brought down the plane by himself. You know, it's one thing to want to kill yourself, but you know, when killing yourself means you're killing 100 more people with you, that's kind of really sad. That's WRMI with the Overcomer Ministry.
The Bible tells us to be given unto him to make more of a mistake. And he will prevail. That's it.
You can find yourself anywhere amongst these things. I know I do. And I thank God that I know I have a Savior that understands me, and he sympathizes with me. but it gives me words of understanding. He's been there.
That's the annoying woman from the island of Anguilla talking about God, but always asking for money every 10 minutes.
Suffer to be misunderstood by people.
You have a desire to grant obedience.
Once again, Overcomer Ministry from WRMI. Tom, you know, sometimes things happen like that. I had a little something a few years ago where I couldn't, you know, I was wondering why my receiver couldn't get shortwave signals very strong. And, you know, I used my portable receivers and they'd get a better signal than my at that time I had my Kenwood R5000, and you know, I was wondering, I was starting to think that I had to open it, something was wrong with the radio, until I noticed that when I went outside to do some work, I accidentally knocked over the wire, and the part where it was actually connected to the central cable, shielded cable, actually was not touching, but it was really close. So instead of giving me zero signal, it was just giving me weak signals. And you know, when I went outside to check that out, I didn't see that the central cable was disconnected. Because of the way I had actually knocked it out, it didn't show. It looked like it was connected, but it wasn't. And it took me, I think it took me 2 weeks before one day I looked at it carefully and I said, what the hell? Central cable's not even plugged correctly. And as soon as I did that, signals came back to normal. And you know, for a week and a half, I was thinking of opening the radio and checking out what's wrong inside. It happens sometimes, you know. Maybe sometimes we're a little tired, work too hard.
And believe that you are rich.
Es una enfermedad, ella no metaboliza los lípidos, entonces se van alojando en órganos como el hígado.
That's Radio Marti from the United States. You guys in Europe, I think, have fire up the web SDR here on my computer from 20. Check that out. I think you guys have. I see a little earlier.
Por supuesto, dada la rareza de la enfermedad. Giselle, usted ha establecido contacto. Me gustaría que nos contara al respecto, sobre todo en España, con especialistas. En España, según tengo entendido, nos va a contar ahora cómo usted hizo estos contactos y hay un conocimiento más amplio de la enfermedad debido a que hay más casos. Cuéntenos estos contactos, ¿qué le han dicho estos doctores españoles que usted ha tenido pues la oportunidad a través de la maravilla que es el internet de hablar con ellos? ¿Y qué le han recomendado?
Radio Slovakia in German on 3985 for you guys in Europe. Coming in really well on the 20 receiver in the Netherlands. It's transmitted from German transmitters.
A raíz de todo lo que me informé, de todo lo que leía de la enfermedad, pues encontraba números de teléfono. Y fíjese que él ya tengo 21 años que empecé en un grupo de oración y mi esposo ya tiene también. Poco después he estado jalando mucho más a la misa. Él no me acompaña al grupo de oración, pero todos los domingos hacer la presencia de la iglesia en escuchar la misa. Y qué bonito.
That's WEWN from the United States.
Somos los casos que tenemos que dar ese tiempo para nuestros hijos, no nada más niños.
Así es, el tiempo para el perro, compadre.
Así es. También voy a preguntar por el caso. Él estuvo en la parroquia.
Well, you know, Tom, it happens. It happens to me all the time, you know, that I do some things like that. Sometimes it's, you know, setting the wrong switch and so on. Hey, Mr. Chris D, welcome to the hangout. We're tuning the bands today. Nothing fancy. Just had some time on my hands today, and I felt like listening to the radio. And I was thinking that, well, as long as I'm listening to the radio, why not tune it live and have you guys along, tuning the bands, checking it out. Maybe there's something interesting in your part of the world. Why not share it with us, what you're listening to? And welcome to the Hangout.
No son que perdamos el rumbo, porque si el mensaje anunciado por los ángeles tuvo validez y toda transgresión y desobediencia recibió su propio castigo.
This is WTWW in Lebanon, Tennessee.
Esta salvación fue anunciada primeramente por el Señor. Los que la oyeron no la confirmaron. Además, Dios ratificó su castigo acerca de ella con señales, prodigios, inmensos milagros y dones distribuidos por el Espíritu Santo, según su voluntad. Dios no puso bajo el dominio de los ángeles el mundo entero en que estamos hablando.
Hey, Mr. Dalibor from Serbia, welcome to the Hangout. And he's mentioning that he's actually put a new outdoor antenna and he hasn't had time to test it. Hey, the Bogey 101 from Northeast Arkansas, Scott, welcome to the Hangout, tuning the band. So if you got anything that you're listening to in your part of the world, why not share it with us? Hope the tornadoes didn't. I know in Oklahoma and parts like that they had a lot of tornadoes. I think it was yesterday. I hope it didn't affect you guys in Arkansas also.
Have to create a totally confused ship of people fighting with each other. A total tower.
WWCR.
You go in your office, and this is an office.
Nashville, Tennessee, USA.
Then some of the folks work outside the office. I've learned over the years, anybody likes to gossip and stir up trouble. I just got to get rid of them because that's what they do. That's their little mental illness. They go in circles their whole life, chasing their tail, never trying to build something or do something or affect the outside. They don't have missions. Their missions are screwing with everyone. We've all run into those people. That's what the social engineers are, because they want us all to be failures. They want us all to act out.
One of those weird unknown transmissions. 13.151.4 13.151.4 upper sideband. People talking. Shortwave bands are full of these signals that are just from unknown sources, transmitted here and there. Hey, Harry Cat 5E, welcome to the hangout from Glasgow. And he's got a nice, cool Irish brew or something, Iron brew. Actually, I've decided I don't usually drink in the weekdays, but decided that today a little glass of wine while tuning the bands. It is 3 in the afternoon. Why not? So just open a little bottle here. So cheers, everyone. Chris is mentioning that Voice of Turkey is very strong in Poland on 7205. And I'll go on the web SDR here and check it out. 7205. And yep. Music you're hearing is from the Voice of Turkey. It is coming in quite well on the 20 receiver in the Netherlands. You're hearing something on 13.818, Tom? 13.818. Actually,
Sumado al coche, ¿qué otra cosa necesitaría, Giselle?
Here it's Radio Mark T that's really dominating 13.820, so don't really hear nothing on 13.818.
Giselle, el tema de la alimentación, ¿cómo ustedes enfrentan esta situación?
Go back here, tune upwards. Oh, it's interesting, that little chirping sound that there's on 13, from 13.420 all the way up to about 13.475. Really like a chirping sound. Yeah, 13.820, Tom, is Radio Marti from the United States, the Cuban station from the station from the United States that is transmissions to Cuba, I believe. I'm just gonna check to make sure, but I think 13.820 is Radio Marti. Just gonna check it out to make sure that I don't say anything. Yep, Radio Marti in Spanish. This is transmitted towards Cuba usually on 13.820. Something unknown on 13.580. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna check if we can hear it in Europe. 13.580. Yeah, you guys hear it really well in Europe. 13.580 in Europe is full quietly at the 20 receiver. I hear it here, 13.580 at about S5. I don't know what language that is, and I don't know what transmission that is. When I look at the list here, at 1900, I don't find anything at 1925 that's on air on 13580. There was Voice of America, but it ended at 1800. Bangladesh Betar ended at 1900. I don't see what it is actually. 19 Betar. Anybody know what 13580 is? $13,830 in Spanish.
Con él también, por supuesto, nos haría mucho honor hablar con él también un poquito. La misión de
It's WEWN in the United States, Tom, 13830 in Spanish. It's the Catholic religious station. Anybody knows what's 13580? I'm going to go check the AOK site. Maybe they have a list of this. Okay, I got it. 13580 is 13580 is Bangladesh Betar, actually, but it's in a language. It's in Bengali. So this is Bangladesh Betar, actually, station direct from Bangladesh. Yeah, Andrew. You know what? I'd like that. You know what, Tom? Maybe we could do something together. I'd like that. If we could find a way to link up, you know, and do a show that we could maybe via Skype. You know what I could do, which would be interesting? I could Skype you, and you'd be on my 50-inch TV in my living room, and I'll like sit next to the TV so that you'll have Tom, you'll have me, and we'll be doing something. I think that would be really nice. We should think about it, Tom, if you're interested. Maybe we should try something eventually. I could, you know, do that. Have you Skype and do the live show at the same time. I think my internet connection can take it, so that would work really, really well. Would have you via Skype, and I'll be there too. We can maybe tune together, do something. Check that out if you're interested, Tom. Yeah, and the 20 receiver, Andrew, I see that it's coming really well. And from the IOK list, they are listing this as the Bangladesh Betar in Bengali. That's actually a good one. I rarely hear Bangladesh Batar on this frequency. So it means propagation isn't too bad today, actually. Yeah, well, we'll try to, not take the 50-inch as long as, I guess, Tom is going to be so big compared to me. If we do that like that, I'll probably post like the video screen somehow so that the 50-inch, like half of the 50-inch maybe would be Tom, half of the 50-inch would be, I don't know, shortwave schedules or something, and me next to it or something. And I think it would be cool. We'd be able to be together as if we were in the same room and do something. That would be nice. Yeah, Chris, you know what? There's a lot of, with all that's happening in Russia, and they've been really, really doing a lot of military exercises. And you know what? Even here, the Canadian government, a few weeks ago, was talking how it stayed always on alert because in the Arctic in the north, it seems that we have a lot of Russian airplanes that actually come really close to the Canadian border. And the Canadian government has been really, looking at this carefully because they say that the Russians have been actually really increasing their military presence and trying to show Canada that the Arctic is something that they're looking at. Come on, Tom. Wouldn't be so bad. 50-inch. We'll figure out a way to do something and do something live. I think it would be fun, and do it in a way that will work well. Well, you know what, Tom? Just for that, maybe you could reinstall it, and we'll link. I'll give you. I'll send you my Skype handle privately, and you'll be able to connect with me, and maybe we could do a few tests, see how it works, and see how we could maybe do a show together. That would be interesting, but I think it will work well. I think we could, with all the computers I have here and the technology, I think we could do something like that and have a nice little show live, some kind of hangout, and that would be cool. And maybe even do a little something, from time to time where you talk about the radios you've been able to play with, what you think, and so on. I really enjoy your videos. I often go on when I my 50-inch TV has a YouTube app in it, and I often check radio videos on it, and I very often get to your channel because you have a lot of videos. So a lot of the videos that I play on my TV are from your channel, actually. So I think we if you're interested, I don't want to push anything, but if you're interested, I think it could be cool. Cool, Tom. That will be fun. We'll check it out. I'll check my schedule and your schedule, of course. and maybe find a way to maybe do some kind of shortwave show together. That could be cool. You have a lot of radios that you test, and you know, your knowledge, my knowledge, together could be something interesting, actually. Very weak, but Voice of America in English, 13590 from the Sao Tome relay site in Africa. Yeah, I remember we talked a little bit about that, but you know, the schedule, my schedule is really, really complex, and even just finding time for the hangout every 2 weeks is complicated for me. And so, unfortunately, I have to manage my schedule a little better, and we'll do something, Tom. I think it would be really cool. Really enjoy your channel and all. So I think both of us together could do something really, really good. All India Radio on 13640, if you guys can hear it. That is in Arabic. There will be in French in about in about 8 minutes. They're going to have French transmission. This one is usually a regular here. They're having music right now. Let's check it out here. 13640 in Europe. Yeah. You guys in Europe have this really, really strong, and here it's about S5, F6 for All India Radio. Radio Kuwait in Arabic 13650. Let me check if they're back on 15540. Doesn't seem so. Radio Kuwait's been off English on 15540. Apparently they have a problem with a transmitter, but they are in Arabic 13650, Radio Kuwait. Hey, Dr. Nicolas, our friend in France is receiving 13580 on his Texan PL210. Really nice. What else do we have? No, not really. If it's set right, I don't think that having Tom on Skype would be that much of a problem. I could set it up so that it actually works well, as long as my audio is not in his audio and so on. We'll find a way. What antenna am I using? If I've covered this before. No, it's okay, my friend. My antenna right now is a 50 feet wire in my backyard. It is about 3 stories high, and it is hung in the neighbor's tree.
I think diciamo che
Cat 5E says he's waiting for his Roberts R9914. Got it for about 20 pounds. And it has SSV. Hopefully I'll get some of these stations. Yeah, sure. Having single sideband is a good thing on the radio. Hey, Mr. from Finland. The M1N3RX, which probably means something. Welcome to the hangout. We're in Canada here, northeast part, North America, Nordic country also. AVA2 XMS Petro, welcome to the hangout. Good afternoon. Oh, it's a kind of soda made in Glasgow. Why is it banned in Canada? Do you know why? Harry Cat 5E talking about his drink that he's having, and Chris says that 13650 is very strong on his Grundig Yacht Boy 80. Oh man, you just reminded me, Chris. I had a Grundig Yacht Boy 400 that I sold to an uncle of mine for $75, and I miss that Grundig Yacht Boy 400. Some interesting signal on 13695. Here it says Radio France, but I don't think Radio France has that kind of weird music. Very, very bizarre. Let's check 695 in Europe. Yeah, this signal is really strong in Europe. Really strong. 13695. Let's check it out on the list here. This time it could be All India Radio, and I think that is. It's actually the local Indian station. It's like not the external service of India, but more of the local service of India. And it's apparently going to end transmission in a few minutes. 13695. This is Vatican Radio, where they have like this transmission, this daily prayer thing, transmission every day. I think this is the daily prayer from Vatican Radio. All right, there's a coloring that is banned. That's why. Okay. You know, there's so many laws of all sorts. There's things that are sold here that are, you know, can't be sold in the United States because of all the food additives that are inside, and some of the stuff in the United States that can be sold here, and so on. So complicated. So 13820 is Radio Marti from the United States. 13830 is WEWN, the Catholic station in Spanish.
That was weed free.
Very strong WWCR on 13845.
Bet you never took communion like this before.
With that annoying woman.
But this cup, when we talk about...
Actually, I posted a little something today. I noticed that if you go to 15.825 for WWCR,
attention to an expression we saw there in
they're actually transmitting spurs. If you go to 15.650,
which is
15.65, I don't hear it now, but about an hour and a half ago, WWCR was emitting very strong spurs, both sides of 15.825. One was on 15.650, and the other one was on 16 megahertz. And now it's gone, but it was there around 1700 UT. Interesting.
We're dealing with two concepts that Christ covered.
There's some Weatherfax from Germany, actually. This is from Germany, the Weatherfax station. Let's check the 20-meter amateur radio band. Some nice, around 14 to 30. It's the frequency. Here it goes. This is the frequency where you get slow scan television. I'm actually going to fire up my SSTV software here. SSTV is a software, free software, that lets you decode SSTV or slow scan television. 14 to 30 is one of those very popular slow scan TV frequencies. So there's a free software called SSTV that you can install on your PC. It's a shame that it was so, I got it late. It was really, really strong. I could see the end of the picture here. It was really clean. I'm going to stay there a little bit. I'm going to see if we can decode some other SSTV. 14 to 30, around there. There's a lot of guys that just, you know, love sending out pictures, and basically slow scan television is really that, just, you know, sending pictures through amateur radio. And it's really cool. You know, sometimes I love to do that. 15.630. Let's just try it for a few seconds. Hear nothing right now. Wonder if they're supposed to be on the air. Greece. I'm gonna check that out. If they're on the air right now for Greece. 15.630. Usually 15.630. Yeah, they're not on right now. they're going to be back on at 2300, but they are not on right now 15630 Petro with the Greek station. But I hear it regularly. Anybody else hearing something unusual on the bands right now? Just gonna try to see if I can decode it. A SSTV slow scan TV picture. I'm just gonna show you guys what it looks like for anyone that never decoded in slow scan TV. I fired up my piece of software. Actually, I can show you guys a little bit here if I bring this over here. Sorry about the lighting here. Sometimes it's not always good. If you look here at the picture, the ones on the bottom here that you see which look like stamps, these were received from the International Space Station on 145.825, I believe. And a few weeks ago, they were transmitting. So when a station actually transmits a slow scan TV signal, what happens is in this little square here, I get the picture that actually decodes. So it's a fun thing to do. You know, it's free software that you can install in a Windows machine. And even if you have an old computer, it's still going to work. Here you see some things, but the signals aren't very strong right now, so it's actually not very, very good. But if we can get a strong slow scan TV signal, it would be nice to have a nice decoding of one of those signals. Yeah, Recat 5e. Unfortunately, when radios have needles, they have this analog style tuning. Very, very often they're off, and it's almost that, you know, you're almost tuning without knowing really where you are on the dial. It's always a little complicated. So wait a few minutes more, but if there's no strong signal, we're gonna continue tuning the bands. I don't want to bore you guys with slow scan TV. Anybody ever decoded slow scan TV? And the guys that are watching right now, this is something fun to do, actually. Hey Antoine, welcome to the Hangouts, watching from New Orleans, stormy and hot. Well, here it's raining and better than it was. Not really that warm, but you know, it's +4 Celsius, which is much better than the -30s we've been having all winter. Spring is surely coming in. So welcome, Antoine. Nice to have you on board. Antoine just signing in from Twitter. No, for slow scan television, all you need is a receiver that has digital tuning. So if you have a Degen receiver or a Texan, you know, just hook up your radio's output to the input of your computer, fire up the software, and as long as you have a signal that's decent, all that's required is a radio that has stable tuning. So, you know, usually digital portable receiver and with sideband, single sideband is required. Andrew, the decoding is the software actually is MMSSTV. So Mike, Sierra, Tango, Victor. MMSSTV. It's totally free, and you just install it, and you know, it works really well. Once you tune, the only thing you have to tune is the correct zone, so they have the correct tone, and you see it with the little green here. Once you're set correctly, you see that the indicator here comes green to tell you that it's in the correct frequency range. And usually just the automatic, when I click auto here at the top, it knows by itself what type of signal you're actually listening to. This one is nice, S57ILF, or that's an interesting. We don't see much of his, he's calling CQ from what I see here. Signal was rather weak, but we do see very well that it was S57ILF, which I believe is from Slovenia. I'm not really sure. Fortunately, the signals I'm receiving right now on SSTV are rather weak. They're barely making my S meter move. But, you know, you can see that they're still decoding slightly, even though they're very weak. It's always really cool to have a very, very strong signal and, you know, have a really clear picture. It's just cool, you know, decoding pictures off the shortwave bands. It's always nice. So, you know, all you guys need, for those that never did it, just, you know, a single sideband receiver that's stable enough, because you don't want to have any drifting on the signal. Usually a digital portable, and MMSSTV, and it's just so cool. So, hey Scott, welcome to the hangout. Just sharing. Oh, here's one that looks interesting. For some reason, here goes. This one might. Oh, this one looks. No, it's totally messed up. This one's totally messed up for some reason. I don't know why. But it usually works really well. Hey, Kimberly, George, welcome to the hangout. It's 85 Fahrenheit in Southern California. I'd like to be there right now, actually. 4 Celsius here, which is what, 38, 40 Fahrenheit. Rather cold. Hey, Andrew, it's my pleasure. It's you know, something fun to do. And even if you don't hear nothing on 14230, by the way, just park your radio on 14230 upper sideband and leave it there, because some of these slow scan TV signals we don't hear because they're out of range, or you know. And if you put your radio on 14230, I can bet you that in less than 30 minutes you'll at least hear 1 or 2 slow scan signals. But this one was really horrible. It was all messed up. And Chris says that he was able to decode this slow scan TV from the ISS using RTL SDR dongle and QSSTV. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. Really, really nice. So Tom says yes, he's decoded some slow scan stuff. Really nice. Fortunately, not a really strong signal to show you guys, but you know, it's a fun activity. Hey, Robert Cole from Philadelphia. Welcome to the hangout. Really nice to have you along. Yeah, Harry, Cat 5e. All you have to do is simply put the output of your audio on the receiver into the input of your computer, line in or microphone jack. And usually, if everything's set right, you should decode slow scan TV signals quite easily, actually. Yeah, Tom, I like to decode Weatherfax also. I often do it actually just for the fun of it. There's something about it that's cool, you know, receiving these like, you know, weather front images. And I actually like to, what I often do is decode the Weatherfax and print it out and show someone, you know, it's like, hey, look, I decoded this ice chart from the Atlantic Ocean on my radio. And, you know, people usually get a kick out of that, seeing someone receiving some Weatherfax. And actually, we should try to find a strong Weatherfax signal and maybe do a live Weatherfax decode here. That could be fun to do. You know, digital signals are fun to, it's a fun side to the hobby. I love, you know, listening to decoding, well, you know, Weatherfax, slow scan TV pictures. I actually love, you know, trying out different modes on the amateur radio. The other day I was decoding Olivia 16500. Just so cool, you know, when you get that mode working, and it's just fun. And I actually, you know, in the evening, sometimes when I see that the shortwave bands aren't fantastic, I'll park my radio onto a BPSK 31 amateur radio frequency, like in the 40-meter band. And usually there's always some signals there. And I fire up this laptop that I have here, which is an old ARC Core 2 machine with Windows 7. This computer is like 7 years old. And I've actually put it here because it basically is mostly my decoding computer now. It is the main computer. It has all the software for pretty much every type of digital mode. And usually what I do is just use this. And also, since it has the internet, well, you know, I also have, when I tune the bands, I get the EIBI space lists here that I check by frequency and by time. So like that, I'm able to actually tune the bands. Now I see that the camera is going crazy here, but this is the main, I'd say this is my main radio computer. And it even has my, this is the USB cable that is attached to the back of my ICOM, and is actually a controls my radio. And when I listen to amateur radio satellites, it will actually control the frequency of my radio. Look at the nice picture that's coming in right now, right here. That's a pretty cool one. Not too noisy, you know, just a really nice one here. Try to, here it goes. And what's cool is that you can actually save these pictures into your computer if you want, and you have this space at the bottom where you can put all your favorites, you know, and keep them there. Very nice one here. Really nice picture, very colorful. That's really nice. You have the call sign right here, K8CAC. Very nice picture, this one. That was a nice one. This is how you like decoding SSTV. And this software actually does it really well. What's also nice is you can go into the history here. On the top, there's a history, and the history actually has all the pictures you've decoded in the past show up. You see here, I've got a few that are bad. These are the ISS ones. So it's really nice. So all the tries, depending on the different pictures. So it keeps track of a lot of the pictures that you received. CQ-SSTV means that this station is actually calling CQ and wants to, you know, share a picture, or it exchange pictures with slow scan TV via amateur radio band. I think 14230 is probably the best frequency. If any one of you guys want ever to try it, 14230 is the frequency. So hope you guys enjoyed this little live tuning. Do you like to do you decode Tom, the NOAA weather satellites? I received them quite well, but I've never decoded a weather a satellite picture from the NOAA satellites, you know, in the VHF range. Have you ever done that, Tom? That's something I should try, actually, and really want to do. That one isn't too bad, actually, with the moon and some water. Oh, that's interesting. Jim says that he can't see me live. He sees the clock. Maybe he has to reload the page. That is interesting. That's weird. Unfortunately. Oh, that's interesting. I'll try that. Antoine says that the out-of-banders or free banders in the 27 megahertz range send SSTV on 27700 upper sideband. I'm gonna have to try that. You know what, Antoine? I think it was the other day. I wasn't sure, but when I was going through that 27 megahertz out-of-band frequency range, I thought for a second that I crossed a slow scan TV signal, and I wasn't sure. So you're just actually telling me that I wasn't crazy. I did hear probably a slow scan TV signal. So that's well, that's sad. When anytime an antenna comes down because of bad weather or something, or moving, or we just don't have the space anymore, it's always a little sad to lose any of those any antennas that help us do our hobby. Yeah, Chris, you know what? I hear the NOAA weather satellites very well in usual here. And I have installed once. What's the man? I don't remember what's the name of the software that actually takes the audio sample and decodes the weather chart. And for some reason, I've never been able to decode it, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm gonna have to check that out again. Everybody's telling me it's easy, and for some reason, there's something I don't know, something I haven't done, or I don't know. Yeah, Susan, the clock is correct. So when I'm going to go back to the radio here, so we're going to continue tuning the bands. So yeah, Susan, the clock here is correct. So if you want to know the delay that you have, by the way, I'd be curious. Can you guys tell me what's your delay compared to the clock. This clock is very accurate to UTC right now. So what you see here is exactly UTC. So if you've got a clock that's pretty accurate also, can you guys tell me what's the delay that you guys have? Just want to see if I can do an average of how much delay of the video between me and you guys. And see if there's maybe some correlation between, you know, where you are. I know that some of the delay is due to the internet connection that you guys have also, because your computer, to receive what I'm doing right now, needs to do what we call a buffer. So it needs to get some signal, you know, part of the data before it can actually show you the video. So you know, that buffer can range from, you know, 10 to 15 seconds to more than a minute. Tom has 30 seconds. Okay, that's good. Actually, 30 seconds not too bad. I consider less than a minute to be okay. More than a minute might be a little problem. Oh, that's cool, Tom. What were you using for the software to decode the images? I'd be interested to know that. So I'm going to continue tuning the bands.
My amp while I was on with you all, and I lost it this morning while I was on 75 meter AM, and I thought, well, this is strange. And finally, I started checking electrical cords, and I got one of those electrical testers and stuck it at the end of the cord. And there's well, I've repaired the plug for both ends of the cords and plugged into another Allen.
Okay, 30-second delay in Montreal. Streaming 144p. That's kind of a small 30 seconds. Yes, Susan, she was asking me by email, am I transmitting my video in HD? Yep, this is 720p HD. It's not the full 1080p because the camera does 1080p. But for some reason, for streaming, it only does it with the Logitech software. So from what I understand, everything I do live is 720p, but I haven't checked that. I should check on the YouTube channel if the maximum you can pump the video is 720p, but it's the basic HD, that's for sure. You know, it's a minimum of HD. And that was important for me. I wanted to really have an HD signal, an HD video sent on the web. And it does require a fast internet connection for sending out. Yeah, that's it, Tom. Weather to EMG to image. That's what I have in a computer, and for some reason I am unable to decode the software, the pictures. While running on an old 286, wow, that reminds me when I had my old 286 back in 1990 or 91 or something like that. Man, before the internet. Andrew says 36 seconds in Berlin. Hey, David in Barcelona, welcome to the Hangout. And he's got a 29-second delay. Not too bad, actually. 73 is my friend. Nice to have you on the Hangout. And we're tuning the band, so why not join us and share what you guys are receiving.
High-speed Delta 8, Oscar, Juliet.
Kimberly George says that she's got that the delay is 55 seconds.
that haven't worked VE3JPJ, Stephen is still needing a few more veterans for his award that he hasn't contacted. So please give Stephen a call if you haven't contacted him yet. There we go. We put the word out, Stephen. Over.
Very weak here, but is anyone receiving a CHU time signal on 14670? I'm always curious about that frequency. I hear it barely in the noise here. CHU Canada in Ottawa, 14670. Hey Chris, my camera is a Logitech C920. I bought it last summer, and I bought it just for video hangouts. I wanted to have something that did at least 720p HD, and at least, well, actually I bought it in the idea that I was doing 1080p HD, but you know, when you read, there's always this little asterisk where, you know, you have to check what it means, and in very, very small it says that from what I've seen, 1080p is mostly using their own streaming stuff. So I'm not really sure if I'm at 720 or 1080. I guess the best way to know that if there is 1080 or 720 would be to check the videos on YouTube that are recorded after I finish my Hangouts. But you know, it's a great camera, has autofocus. Sometimes the autofocus is a little out of you know, range, and it like tries to autofocus every 10 seconds. But most of the time it's okay, and it does have a very crisp, very clear video. Really like it. It's a great camera for the price. I paid I think it was $95 for it. So, oh, Tom says 14670 is loud and clear in Florida. That's interesting. It's almost impossible most of the time here to have CHU on 14670 because I'm too close to Ottawa. The signal basically skips over me. These interesting signals. Oh, that's interesting. Propagation is good. 14996. The PIP is from the Moscow time signal in Russia, RWM. So this is from Russia, 14996. Propagation is quite good today. I hear the time pips from their time signal. Anyone else hearing 14996? I'm in CW mode, but if you want to try to tune it and you don't have CW mode, put your radio in LS lower sideband and tune about 1 kilohertz up, 14997 lower sideband. And you should hear the pips of Moscow, the Moscow time signal in Russia. 14996. You've just changed the pattern. CHU is not on 7285, David. It's on 7850. 7850 on the 700 megahertz band. And yep, 14. They have three frequencies. CHU has 3330, 7850, and 14670. These are three frequencies used by CHU Canada time signal. David says he's hearing at S5, S6 in Barcelona, CHU on 14670. And Kimberly, George, 14670, very faint here in Southern California. Anyone hearing 14996, which is Moscow time signal in sideband? If you have CW mode, 14996 in CW mode, or put your radio in 14997 and lower sideband. And if you can't, if you don't know, just go on 14996 and tweak with the little fine tuning on your portable and check if you can hear it. Antoine says the delay is 50 seconds where he is. Not too bad. You know, below a minute, I think it's not bad. Jim James, loud and clear in Scotland, which is probably for the CHU. 14996, loud and clear in Scotland in CW mode. Yeah, usually in Europe, it's pretty good. By the way, for those that don't know about the Moscow time signal, it's on 4996, 9996, and 14996. The three frequencies used by Moscow time signal. So 4996, 9996, and 14996. Kimberly George says 14996, 10/9 into Southern California. Wow. Hey, Richard. S5 CHU. Welcome, Richard, to the hangout. So Nicola says the delay is 30 seconds. Not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, is it on your PC or Mac computer? Sometimes you have to reload the page or refresh. A lot of people have been telling me that when they're watching the live feeds for the hangout, it often freezes and they just reload the page and it works fine. Maybe something is wrong. At least you can see it on your iPad. That's cool. Welcome to the hangout, my friend. Hey, Bartek, welcome to the hangout. Good afternoon. 35-second delay in Poland. Just joined with some delay today. Cool. Richard says a good copy of the Russian time signal in Sherbrooke. Nice. 35-second delay in Sherbrooke. Not too bad. And Eric Cat 5E says, well, we're about 30 little more than 30 seconds delay, not too bad. Nice to have you guys around. Yeah, it's possible, David. Propagation, I'm getting stations that I usually don't really receive very well. So propagation seems interesting. Yeah, that's what I thought. 7285 is a CRI frequency, David. Maybe that's because you listen too much to China radio. 9996 time signal coming into Berlin. Noise on 14996. Yeah, I don't think 9996 is. No. Yeah, it is very weak. I can hear it barely below in the noise on 9996. It does come in very faint, but 14996 much better. Much better. Yeah, Chris, but you'll hear probably Chris 9996, as 9996 is probably coming in quite well in Berlin. So you can try a 9996, Chris. I bet you that you'll hear that one. I sometimes notice that it's there in the time signal because I'll listen to WWV in 15 megahertz in AM and faintly hear in the background that it has a slight interference from the Moscow time signal on 14996. That's usually when I know that 14996 coming in. Lots of transmissions from the U.S. Army, 15016 upper sideband. This is the U.S. Army. Yeah, Petro, the UVB 76 buzzer. Well, you know what? The problem is right now on high frequencies, you know, we're hearing very well Russia on the 14, 15 megahertz. Thing is the buzzer is on 4 megahertz. So, you know, with time and with propagation conditions, they could be different on that frequency range. But, you know, it's worth a try. It's always worth a try. And one of the best things that you can do when you tune into shortwave, and I think that's probably one of the best things I can tell anyone, it's that, you know, even if you think you can't hear something, you should at least try it, you know. you better to try something that you don't hear than not try something that you could have heard, but you didn't try it. And often I tried something that I thought was impossible, and behold, it was there. Oh, I hope you guys are still there. There is some kind of error. I just saw it on the screen that it told me there was some kind of error on the server, and it restarted my video feed. So I hope you guys are still watching. Sorry if something was wrong. It said that there was some error on the Google server, and everything went black, and everything came back. For a moment there, I thought that the hangout had just finished unexpectedly. So hope everything is fine, and if you can't see me or if there's some problem, just refresh and try to come back. $15,034 is the Trenton Military and Ontario, Canada. This is Trenton Military weather from Canada. It's kind of weak right now. Okay, thanks, Andrew, because there was really a big problem. I could see here that it stopped for a second, and it had to restart it. It seems to be okay now. So cool. Thanks for letting me know. I see the number of people has not changed really, so I guess the video feed is okay. That's probably what I would, I always check the number of people watching because it tells me people are there. Hey, Nice Hammer, welcome to the Hangout. And thanks for the answer. David says, I got a simple of 55555. That's good. That's good. This is Radio Japan from the French transmitter site in Japanese. Radio Japan. Good signal from the Sultanate of Oman. 15140. This is Oman in Arabic. With some music.
nígbà àwọn ọmọ rẹ̀ mẹ́rin ní ìfẹsẹ̀ ọmọ kékeré inú wọn lè kì í ní ọkọ̀ owó lórí olùbá sáré síbẹ̀ ó fọwọ́ tẹ kìnìún yìí àti igi àtọmọ ó wà lọ́wọ́ rẹ̀ bá bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí pariwo pé kí ẹ̀rọ ràn án lọ́wọ́ òní ọkàn bá sáré dé òní bá báwọn gbé méjèèjì.
Was Adventist World Radio from apparently the Rwanda relay. I don't know if is the Rwanda relay still on? They were kind of stopping now, unless they're waiting until the end of the month.
Estuvo Raúl González Blanco. De hecho, ha sido el propio Raúl el que ha aconsejado a Xavi que acepte esta oferta.
Radio Exterior de España, 15490, coming in quite well. This is Spain in Spanish.
De fútbol catarí, mientras comienza su formación como entrenador, porque quiere poner el punto final como jugador en activo y comenzar su etapa de entrenador. Tiene 35 años, recordemos, 17 temporadas en el Barça, Xavi Hernández. Este podría ser un extraordinario contrato como, digamos, de puente entre jugador y entrenador, aunque tiene otra oferta sobre la mesa, que es el Manchester City de la Major Soccer League, donde el equipo donde está jugando el Guajerilla, pero que de momento, como te digo, la prioridad para Xavi es la de Qatar. De ahí que esté a punto de aterrizar en estos momentos en Doha. Esto sería obviamente para la próxima temporada, porque esta la finalizará en el Barça, gracias a que Luis Enrique...
Okay, Jim, yeah, you know, that the time signal in Moscow has different patterns. It will have pips that go on every second. Then it will have pips that are several times per second. Then it's going to have a continuous tone. Then it's going to have Morse code ID, where it's going to send RWM several times to ID that it's the time signal. So it has like a revolving pattern that repeats itself all the time. So depending on the time you're listening to the time signal from Russia, it will have different patterns. Richard in Sherbrooke saying that Oman is S920 plus 20 here in Sherbrooke. This one's a difficult one especially for you guys in Europe. 15550 WJHR in Milton, Florida, in upper sideband. That's the religious station in Florida with very low power and transmitting in upper sideband. 15550. I'm gonna check if I can hear it on the 20 receiver in Netherlands.
Oh, come on, baby. Hey, how was your day? Now, let me tell you something about your day. Rebellion comes in different ways. The hardest rebellion that I've ever dealt with in 25 years of counseling is silent rebellion. When a woman does not want to talk, comes by using trouble. Because women naturally want to talk. And if a man comes home and you say, hey, sweetheart, how are you? And she says, fine, one word, you're in trouble, brother. She's not fine. So when a parent goes to communicate with that child, and all of a sudden that child gives what we call the cold shoulder.
I can hear it from the 20 Netherlands receiver. So if you guys in Europe in upper sideband, this is a good catch. 15550 WJHR in Milton, Florida.
That I've dealt with, that is the hardest to get under control. Are your children in a state of rebellion just through their silence? That's the other question. Does your child love you for who you are? Or do they...
Yeah, David. Every time I stumble across Radio Exterior de España, they have the impression that they're always on some kind of sports broadcast. If it's not sports coverage, it's talking about sports. They seem to have really changed their transmissions.
Because Jesus quit doing things for them, they quit serving him and leaving because they didn't really love you for who he was. They just loved you for what they could get out of you. And now we have a generation of young people that are doing the same thing. They don't don't love parents because they're the parents that God put into their life. They just love them because they're supposed to buy things. So I want to say to all of my young people, if you find the time, not around these spots, because it's your friends, not while you're on the phone, watch the television. You're going to hit something. Trust me. What I'm about to say is fun. Sometime between now and next Sunday, I want you to make a promise. You give you a whole week. I want you to write this to the list. I want you to write, if you listen to your mom, or if you listen to your dad, or whoever you're going to give, or if you listen to your mom, either day.
We have Jesus in Bible that has to do the BBC World Service on longwave. From what I know, I was checking here, and the BBC Radio 4 longwave schedule states that there are a few times a day that they retransmit the BBC World Service. So it seems that they do it sporadically from the Radio 4 longwave, and probably on FM also. So it's not 24 hours, but they do retransmit some part of the World Service, apparently.
My youngest son wrote me a letter, and I read it the other day when he graduated from college. He used to be there. And I want to accomplish that.
Jim James says that 15550 is about S4 in Scotland. Yeah, shortwave programming is interesting for that. There's just so many different types of programming. Yeah, I could, of course. Actually, I like it slow. And the single sideband signals, I usually adjust it slow.
Your mom and dad can go back and look at that and be blessed and help.
Richard says good copy of WJHR in Sherbrooke.
Respect me and do that before next Sunday. And I don't care when you do it, but here's what I would do. I would put it in an envelope and I'd slide it under the door, maybe it's their bedroom or something. Just kind of slide it under the door. I would make a big thing out of it. And maybe have it on.
David says actually what they do is plug the local Radio Nacional España into the Noblejas transmitter. Whenever the Tablero Deportivo Sports Table show is running within the new Radio Exterior España schedule. In fact, if I tune the local FM RNA frequencies, you would hear the same thing. Yeah, you know, that's one of the things that I hate from shortwave stations, when they start to broadcast the local national radio. It's always bad. You know, Radio Australia does that. Radio Australia, which was one of my favorite shortwave stations for programming, knowing what's happening, you know, in the Pacific Islands, you know, things that you never hear here in Canada. It was fantastic until they just scrambled Radio Australia external service and decided that they would run Radio Australia National Radio, the ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. I'm sorry, but these programs are not made for shortwave. Radio Canada International here did the same thing, broadcasting local news into their shortwave outlets. I don't know you guys, but I don't think that somebody in Europe really cares about the traffic reports of what's happening here and that some people are stuck in traffic on the bridges of Montreal. You know, shortwave is shortwave. You have to appeal to an international audience. The only thing that I find okay about the fact that they do that is that if, for example, some Spanish people come to North America, for example, and stay here for work or for some reason, and they want to, you know, catch up with local stuff from Spain. Well, okay, that's not a bad idea actually, you know. And for a long time, a lot of broadcasters maintain some kind of local, you know, language and broadcast just for their own people abroad. Radio Finland did that for such a long time. Radio Finland, when they ended English, they actually continued in Finnish for a few years. And Radio Sweden did the same thing before, you know, everything stopped.
In that's how good data that
15580 is Voice of America.
We are extremely happy in our own way.
I'm trying to show people like we live in this kind of situation in the dark, do something great like that, but at the end of the day, we also enjoy life in our own way.
This is Voice of America to East Africa on the Vatican transmitter site. So what you're hearing on 15580 is coming from the Vatican transmitter site in Europe.
And God created us and music. We have music now.
Having some whack job receiving private revelation in some Caribbean island.
WEWN from United States, 15610.
He's a guy who should know better. But because it served his argument, was willing to, you know, distort his presentation of the truth.
And to imagine that so many people.
Yeah, well, on my Richard, on my ICOM, I have fast and slow, no medium setting. For some reason, I like using slow for single sideband because it takes more time for the signal to really drop. So I have the impression when a single sideband signal is strong, for example, that I'll hear less of the background noise. So it's kind of not as bad for the ears. If you put the AJC fast on sideband, well, the radio really goes down fast, so it gives you more of that noise that you have in the background. That's my take on it, and that's the way I actually adjust it. And like you said, everybody's different. You know, everybody uses some of the settings differently. Some people like some settings in a way, others in another way, and that's okay. Actually, for a digital signal, it's true that it might be better for decoding to have the AJC set to fast. But you know what? I play very little with the AJC now. I used to be like an AJC freak. I'd be going through the AJC like hell. And you know what? One day I just set it to slow and left it there and basically rarely touch it because I rarely see the reason why I should change my AJC on the radio. But it's true that on some signals it can help. Maybe if I had more settings, you know, I'd be setting it maybe differently. But here is either slow or fast, so there's no really middle in on my ICOM.
Some famous examples just quickly. Yeah, go ahead.
The Bible says when you do it.
Overcomer Ministry from WRMI 15770. Yeah, Andrew. Andrew's saying propagation seems to be picking up quite nicely after last week's geomagnetic storm. Oh, it is much better. Last week, I can tell you, I didn't do a lot of radio listening. I did a little bit, but not a lot. Signals were washed out most of the time, and it was really, really horrible. I tried listening to Radio Romania, I think it was Wednesday of last week, and I could barely hear it. And you know, it took a lot of days, for at least 3 or 4 days after the major part of the storm, where signals were really trembling. They had that effect of aurora borealis, and it was kind of you know, difficult to listen to some of the stations, especially on a portable receiver.
For his people, his bride, his body, his church, that he might present it to himself a glorious church without spot.
Yeah, that's it, Richard. You are right about the AJC. I never thought of that, but having the AJC set on fast for digital signals is probably a good thing. That is true.
You want to make a call?
Paul and I were scheduled to fly to Tokyo. The promoter called.
WWCR 15825. That's always a very strong signal here in North America. It's just so unfortunate that it only has religious broadcasting all day.
I should say I'm there to watch the fights. Well, it works for me. Well, I do watch the other fights before and after I compete. If you're okay with that? No. If the
No one dream that I'd have, I would love to have a frequency as strong as this that would broadcast on shortwave WRN, which is the World Radio Network. By the way, if you don't know what it is, if you guys want to listen to some of the old shortwave stations we had on the air that are still broadcasting on the internet, the World Radio Network is a great place. They have streams with, you know, different stations like Radio Sweden, Radio Prague, Radio Slovakia, things that are gone from shortwave mostly, and it's very interesting. So if you guys want to listen to international broadcasts, the World Radio Network on the internet is fantastic. I think it's just WRN.org. They have different streams for different areas, for example, to Africa, to Europe, and to North America. And the different streams have different broadcasts on them. So it's sometimes fun, you know. Sometimes I'll listen to the Europe stream or the African stream. And actually, I listen to WRN a lot on my iPhone, because when I go somewhere and I have a long commute, sometimes, you know, an hour and a half, what I'll do is I'll just fire up World Radio Network through my cell phone and listen to the international broadcasts through there, which I find that it's quite fun. So for those that don't know, World Radio Network is cool.
Teaching kickboxing. Well, what's happening with your divorce, by the way? I'm still praying for justice.
Oh, Jim, yeah, well, that's pretty much it. It's like me. My AGC is AGCF that shows up here, which means the AGC is at fast. And when you turn it off, technically it's slow AGC because it reacts much slower. It could be, you know, I can't say it's slow. I can say it's slower than the fast, but is it slow? You know, if Richard would check it out with his radio that has slow, medium, and fast, maybe slow here is what's medium for him, for example. So, you know, this is not really clearly indicated. AJC is either off or fast. So basically, I just call it slow or fast. So when it's not written with the F here on my display, it means that I'm setting it at slow. Basically, that's what I, you know, go with, because there's no indication that it's slow. But you can see the effect, because if you use a signal that varies a lot, you see that the S meter moves slowly compared to the fast setting. So you see that it's different.
It is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. Don't forget verse 10. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which God hath before.
What do you mean, Ari Cat 5e, about the card radio? The ones, the cards that you like plug into your computer? Do you mean those types of PC cards? What do you mean by cards radio?
From a short mission trip to Croatia. At first, I self-righteously dismissed her.
WLO mobile station. Yeah, Andrew, try it out, WRN, if you're interested in listening to international broadcasts. And a lot of them are either gone from shortwave, and some of them are still on shortwave, but are difficult to hear in North America. WRN, I use it often to listen to Channel Africa. And, you know, just plug it in. I use my internet radio, which is, just going to show you guys right here. This is an internet radio, a Sangean internet radio. And I've programmed my WRN feeds in here. So when I want to listen to it, all I have to do is turn this on, choose my WRN Europe or North America or Africa, and listen to it. And they have feeds in different languages also. If you guys like that, they have feeds in that are in English, French, Spanish, many languages. So you don't have to listen only to the English broadcasts. And it's a 24-hour-a-day thing. So all you have to do is know when your favorite station's on the air. And it's really cool. You know, WRN is very nice. And, you know, I'd like that. It would be fun to have a shortwave outlet for them. Have, you know, I don't know, one frequency 24 hours a day or something that's very strong in North America that would just send out the North American feed, one for Europe, and so on. Global 24 actually had their in their schedule some parts of that feed actually when they were on, when they were broadcasting Radio Prague, Radio Slovakia, Polish radio. These were all off the World Radio Network actually. So WRN is a great thing. If you know, some days that you don't listen to the radio, you can listen to it via the internet. Or if you're doing some computer work, you just, you know, leave it on your computer and so on, and just listen to that while you're you know, working. It's a cool website, WRN.org. (17,145) is some Weatherfax broadcasts. Radio Havana, Cuba, 17,730.
Radio Habana, Cuba. Transmitiendo desde Cuba, territorio libre en América.
Estimados oyentes, Radio Habana, Cuba reinicia sus transmisiones en idioma español.
Hey Klaus, welcome to the hangout. Take care, my friend. Always nice to have you on a hangout from Bavaria border.
16 metros por 17.730 kilohertz. En la banda de 22 metros.
Oh, car radio. I've never owned a car shortwave radio, and always use a portable receiver, and never did listen to shortwave in a car. Really never did. The only radio listening in a car I've done is local stations, and usually I prefer have music in a car. I've never really tried. I don't know if anyone has really tried it. I kind of find it difficult. I would say it would be difficult to have real good reception of shortwave in a car because of the antenna problem. You can't have a really big antenna in a car. So I'm really curious what could be really, how good reception could be in a car for shortwave.
Reportajes, crónicas y otros espacios de interés para que se
Station from Belgium on 18139 ON4. I believe it's Belgium. An amateur station. 18139 coming in quite well. 18 megahertz, 18068 to 18168 is the 17-meter amateur radio band. This is what we call a WRARC band, a WARC band. It is one of those very small amateur bands that were given to the amateur spectrum in the 80s. And they are nice little bands to go through.
You're 5'9" plus in Huntsville, Alabama today. Fred, my name is Phil. Over.
It evolves, yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good idea, actually. That would be a good idea. As he says, he's often taken his Degen 1103, drives to the forest, attaches an external antenna, and sits in his car for comfort. Yeah, that's true. That's a way you can actually listen to shortwave, having a being comfortable listening to shortwave. Driving somewhere, attaching the antenna, and just sitting in the car, doing some shortwave radio. That's true. But while driving, I don't think that that could be that much of an interest. I don't know. Harry Cat 5, he says a long wire. Yeah, well, I'll put a 300 feet long wire that just hangs on the road while I'm driving. That would be something. Richard says Cuba 17730 is S20, very strong. Richard is not very far from where I live. He's in Sherbrooke, which is a city, maybe 100 miles from here, not even. So it's not technically, compared to you guys in Europe and everywhere, he's quite close.
Thank you very much for the call,
Let's check a little bit below 10 megahertz, see if there's anything interesting. Of course, we have the Overcomer Ministry. That's pretty much everywhere on shortwave.
as they drop peace and safety and sudden destruction. Each one getting more.
Can you imagine somebody that just tunes a shortwave radio the first time in his life and doesn't know what he's doing, and finally all he hears is religious broadcasts? Probably, you know, says, well, okay, I'm going to stop the hobby. That's not interesting. Unfortunately, there's just so many of those. Yeah, Kimberly George, I know you have. I saw your, from Twitter, I see your handle. That's cool. Nice to see, I will get my ham ticket this year for sure. I have to do this. I'm going to check that this summer. I'm going to have more time on my hands. I'm going to arrange myself to make sure that I get my ham ticket, and I'll be talking to some of you ham guys and girls out there.
Five years ago, she started a children's play center called Helter Skelter.
The BBC World Service on 9915 from Ascension Islands coming in quite well. A little wobbly in the signals, but 9915 quite good here. S9 plus 10 maybe, from Ascension Island, South Atlantic. 9915.
Skelter was quite a change.
I started out in headhunting and worked in a range of industries, senior level recruitment. I was into Sky Nigeria. This one time the challenge was to do 3 cities in Germany a day, and everyone said I couldn't do that because I had a 5-month-old baby, but I did. Then,
you see, Richard, this signal is very wobbly. I have the impression that when I am in fast AJC, that the signal is a little more difficult to listen to than when I put it in the slow AJC. And you can see the effects on the needle here, by the way. Fast AJC, you can see how fast my needle is moving. And slow AJC, you can see that the needle is actually less, you know, tempted to move fast because the slope makes it slower to go back down when it moves downwards. So, you know, I find that slow AJC on this type of signal is actually better. I don't know what you think, Richard. I'd like to know what you think about 9915 with fast or slow AJC.
Themselves a tiny handful.
Yeah, Kimberly George, look, when I get my ham ticket, I'll let you know, and we'll arrange some on-air contact for sure.
Not bad for the economy. That's what this program is all about. Here's an economist view from Vicky Price of the Centre for Economics and Business Research.
We're seeing the second employment rise very significantly since the beginning of the recession, really. I think probably something like 2/3 of the increase in employment we have seen in recent years, once the economy started to recover, has been due to...
Well, that's interesting. Richard says submarines regularly troll out long wires from their sub to receive lower frequencies VLF. Oh, I didn't know that.
Which is why we didn't see the normal soaring unemployment figures when the recession hit.
Well, absolutely. I mean, what happened partly was that lots of people wanted to do part-time work, but there was also this huge rise of self-employed people who therefore moved down to the employment register, which is good news in terms of the overall statistics. But actually, the underlying truth is that I found their average earnings dropped very, very significantly.
Price was speaking to me at a recent self-employment conference organized by the RSA, the Royal Society of Arts. It's the venerable British institution founded in 1756 for, as its full title states, the encouragement of arts, manufactures and commerce. Another conference participant.
The Vaults asks if anyone has tried the mini whip antenna, PA0 RDT. Seems like a decent solution for places where you can't put one up. On some YouTube videos, it seems really good, especially on low frequencies. I don't remember who. Somebody in the last Hangout mentioned he had one, and he was using that. I should actually check that out. Anything helps. You know, if we can find a way to have small antennas that do good jobs on shortwave. I think it's a cool thing because one of the things about shortwave is that when you are an apartment dweller or if you live in a condo, you know, with all the regulations and the laws and the things that come with that, it's often difficult to put out a good antenna. It's really not that easy. And if you can have a small antenna that actually does a great job, would be really nice. Anybody who uses the mini whip antenna?
In the UK, now there are close to 5 million. And the research that we've done here at the RSA shows that around 75% of the people who are self-employed say they're very happy to be self-employed. They feel that their autonomy, their ability to be flexible.
Harry Caddy says his prime minister is addressing the nation. Well, here in Quebec, our prime minister also is giving us our budget for the next year, telling us that they're going to cut all the services everywhere, and that basically we'll have less money in our pockets because it's just too expensive. So, you know, I'm not really watching that because I'll know that after he finished talking, that we'll have less money to spend, I'll have more taxes on a lot of stuff, and we'll have less services, which is fantastic.
So the economy at places like this, a hospital club, a Hilton Garden in London. It's a wonderful space for creative workers with lots of comfy chairs, guest meeting rooms, and coffee. The place where micro businesses are launched and freelancers meet to discuss new projects. And we have to meet John Michael Sikias, co-founder of 20-something London. It's a website which helps people find independent businesses.
Jim, no, I never attenuate signals. The only times I attenuate signals is if they're really strong and I feel that there's distortion because it overloads, then I'll attenuate. The other reason why I use my 10 dB or 20 dB is when I have high noise. For example, I'll tune a little off here. If you look at 9940, I've got a noise of S6, which is a high noise level. So what I'll do, I'll attenuate by 10 dB sometimes so that the S meter is a little more towards the lower end. And it sometimes helps in weak signals because it can sometimes help in the what we call the signal to noise ratio. So you know, if I go to 6 megahertz, for example, look at my noise level S9. This is amazingly high. At 6 megahertz, I have a lot of difficulty. I cannot DX, that's for sure, and I only hear the strongest signals. So sometimes I'll put the 20 dB attenuator, which lowers my signal to S5, S4. You know, at least I have a little less noise to hear, and sometimes it helps a little bit too. But you know, unless a signal really overloads, I rarely touch my 10 or 20 or 30 dB attenuation. I would attenuate only signals that are really full scale and that seem distorted because they are so strong. For example, the WWCR on 15825, sometimes in the daytime, it will happen that it is full scale and distorts. That means it's too strong on the radio. Then I will use an attenuation to make things better. But apart from that, I rarely touch my attenuation on my radio.
My name's Adam Burns and I run the London office of freelancer.com, which is the world's largest crowdsourcing and crowdsourcing marketplace.
It's an Australian company to start with.
Yes, absolutely. It started in 2009 in Sydney and it's been growing very rapidly ever since. We have, I think, about 700 different types of jobs that go through the site. We see a lot of kind of science, engineering, technology jobs go through, copywriting, translation, marketing. I mean, in the UK alone, we have over 100,000 micro businesses who have actually posted a job and basically hired a freelancer through our platform.
Looking for skills they don't have themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
So freelance micro business startups can.
Kind of difficult to really see a difference. You know, I play with my EGC. Richard saying that he's played with the slow, medium, and fast. He doesn't see much difference except audio as more bass and slow. And you know, if I strictly listen to the audio, I can't really see a difference much of a difference between slow and fast here, actually. You know what? I think one of the problems with AGC is probably more when you have a low-end radio, because AGC and a low-end radio does make a signal difficult to listen to, much more than high-end radio, because it can cope better with the fact that wobbly signals and strong or weak signals are probably better handled by the electronics.
In the micro businesses.
I'm Yvonne Ellen, and my company is called Yvonne Ellen, a range of upcycled vintage homeware.
Upcycle will come to in a minute, but we're here in a flat in Hilly Highgate in North London, and this is where you run the business from.
Well, yes. I kind of do everything in my flat, you know, there's kind of everywhere. I start off with a vintage, this is one that I haven't yet done anything to. Mostly phone china that I found in vintage fairs, markets, a little bit of eBay, heritage shops, and then I apply hand-apply images.
It's really difficult to really know, actually, you know, the difference. If I put it in sidebands,
High cost, but, you know, finding the correct place is
AGC fast.
Micro businesses such as this one run by Yvonne Ellen from her London flat owe an awful lot to the rise in just a few years of the worldwide consumer marketplace.
AGC slow.
Created, of course, by the all-singing, all-dancing, perfect for demonstration internet. Type in anything from 8 curses to onesies to birthright.
I'd say that AGC slow is slightly better in the audio than AGC fast. If I'm in sideband right now listening to this signal.
It's made easier by websites such as the one they run from this laid-back office in Clerkenwell. It's a central London neighbourhood known for its cluster of design firms and creative businesses. This is the UK office of an international company called Etsy, founded 10 years ago in Brooklyn, the New York borough which feels very much like this part of London. Etsy's international vice president is Nicole Vanderbilt.
What's great about Etsy is we bring the buyers to the platform because of the vast selection, and that's not something you're going to get on your own website.
And easy to put your own stuff on it.
Yeah, indeed, that was very much the premise. So it's both easy in terms of the technology and financially. So it costs only 12 pence to list an item, and then we take 3.5% when it sells. You know, now it's so much cheaper and a lower financial risk.
Yeah, I think it's 9 S9 plus 10 pretty much here too, Richard. We have close, or signals seem to be close. Jim says that he's had a lot of noise on 6 megahertz. You know what? On shortwave, usually when you have noise, basically the lower the frequency you'll tune, the more noise you'll have if you're in a noisy environment. Electronic noise from all the electronic gadgets that we have seem to concentrate, I would say, below 7 or 8 megahertz. So I have, you know, if I look at my noise level, that would be an interesting thing, actually. We're going to tune 5 frequencies, okay? And I want everyone to tell me how much noise you got on your bands, okay? Let's start with 3 megahertz. 3 megahertz, 3.0000. I've got S7. So I want anyone to tell me how much noise you've got in AM mode on 3.0000 and share that with me. I've got S7, solid. And when I listen to the noise, I can hear that it's electrical noise made by, you know, electrical projects. You can see when it's the background noise. The background noise is like a hiss. It's like a very, I don't know how to explain it, but it's kind of softer. When it's electronic, when it's the noise created by power supplies and computers and electronic devices, it's kind of harsh. It's more difficult. It's something that's harder on the ears than the regular background noise, which is really much softer. So S7, what's you guys noise on 3 megahertz? I'm curious to see what we have. Yeah, Jim, it's possible that it sounds better. Actually, I noticed that on 9915 when I was in upper sideband and used the slow AJC, I did notice that it seemed to sound better also. So you know, sometimes it is interesting because it does happen that signals in sideband sound better than AM. Okay, Jim James says that he's got S8 on 3 megahertz. Andrew has S4 in Berlin. That's interesting. It's interesting to compare the noise that we have because you know, it also dictates how much DX we can do. For example, Andrew with S4 will hear signals that are weaker than me with my S7, and weaker than Jim James, which has S8. Richard has S7 on 3 megahertz. So that's interesting. S7. Okay, now let's move to 7 megahertz, or maybe a little under in case you have some, you guys have some. Let's go to 6990 to make sure that you don't have any CW signal. David in Barcelona as S9 and but got S7 if he's unplugging his laptop's charger. Yeah, that does play a role for sure. So that's high. Imagine, you guys, from S6 to S9, we all have a lot of noise on 3 megahertz. Okay, let's tune 6990. 6990. I've got almost S8. Kimberly George has S5 in Southern California. That's interesting. It's fun to compare the noise we have in different bands. So, okay, that's cool. So you guys tune to Scott as S7 in South Texas on 3 megahertz. That's interesting. S7. Scott as S9 on 6990. I've got S8. That's interesting because, you know what? I find that I have a lot of noise, but it's cool to see this because what I see is that we all have a lot of noise, and it's not something exceptional. It's not something weird just for me. It seems that everybody has a lot of noise. So what do you guys have? 6990. 6990. What's your noise level on that frequency range? Really cool to see the noise of all of you. Really cool. So Scott in South Texas has S9. Richard as S4. Well, that's much better than me. It means that, you know, when you listen to pirate stations, you'll hear pirate stations that are weaker than I am. There's a big difference, you know, between S. Even only 1 or 2 S units is a big difference. So Jim James says 6990 as S6. David in Barcelona as S6, S7. Andrew in Berlin has S7. So we're pretty noisy, huh? You guys have almost as much noise as I do. I hate having such a high noise level at this range because there's a lot of pirate stations, and I know that a lot of them are washed out because of my high noise level, which is really unfortunate. Okay, let's try the noise level at 11 megahertz. What do you guys have at 11,000? 11.0000000. 11 megahertz. What is your noise level? Mine is now at S6. Kimberly George says she's got S4. Okay, that's on 6990, of course. So how about 11 megahertz? What do you people have of noise on 11 megahertz? I've got S6. That's interesting to compare the noise level. It's really nice. I'll be back in 2 seconds, guys. I'm just gonna have a little refill of wine. I feel like taking a little bit of wine today. So noise level at 11 megahertz. I've got S6. Andrew has S8, which is pretty high. David in Barcelona has S6. So we're pretty much in the same noise level as we see here. What do we have? Recat5, he says, I wish I had a fancy receiver. I feel left out. Don't worry. Don't worry, you're not at all. Richard in Sherbrooke says he's got S5. Jim James, 11, unfortunately topping S7. Okay. And, you know, Jim James says the same thing as me. It's nice because he says, you know, he thought it was only on his station that he had so much noise. And you know what? I think it's kind of comforting to see that you guys have as much noise as me, because at least I know that I'm not crazy and that I'm not, you know, overly noisy. A friend of mine that doesn't live very far, that has my old Kenwood R5000, has just, you know, stopped listening because I thought I had high noise, but every time I would tell him, hey, there's a pirate station, hey, do you listen to this station, or there's this or that that you can listen to, he would never hear it because his noise level is much higher than mine. And it actually tells me that, yeah, my noise is high, but at least, you know, it's still in a manageable level, and I can still hear signals. Kimberly George says S8 on 11 megahertz. That's interesting. So Andrew has S8. Okay, that's interesting. Let's try. There's a signal here. I just heard something on 11 megahertz. Huh. Go to 15.050. 15.050, because we don't want to be on WWV frequency. Now, that frequency range is not too bad for me. 15.050 is S3. 15.050, 19-meter band, is S3 over here. So, you know, that frequency range is actually good for me in noise level. I would be able to DX probably on the 19-meter band because it's not too high. Scott says 11 megahertz, S3, S4, similar to 10 meters, nice. You know, when you have below, I'd say you have below S5 noise on some bands, I think you're not too bad for that. Richard says he's using max RF gain. Yeah, mine too. Is that well, everything's max on my radio too. I don't have any attenuators or nothing. So David says that 15050 is S6. So it's higher than me. So overall, the 15 megahertz is noisy for a lot of you out there. That's interesting. What do we have? Richard 15030 is S4. So S4 resembles a little bit mine. Mine is S3, maybe not pretty much smack on S3 from what I see here. So S3. Okay, that's interesting. S5 for Jim James on 50050. Andrew has S4, S5. Okay. So we do have, in general, except for a few of you guys that are exceptions to the rule, from what I see is that we seem to have a little bit less noise in the higher frequencies. And maybe one last check. Let's check 22 megahertz. 22000. At 22 megahertz, I've got, let's just, yeah, I've got S5. I'm just going to do a little trick here, but I want to check something. Yeah, S5. I do have a little bit of noise coming off of my laptop from what I see, but it doesn't seem to be really much on the computer side. So isn't too bad, actually. So 22 megahertz, 22000, S5, S5.5 to F6. Kimberly George has got S6 on 15050. .22 megahertz. Yeah, RECAT 5E. Yeah, it could be a a good idea, an SDR without converter. It's true that the higher end receivers are expensive, and unfortunately, not everybody can buy one. David in Barcelona says that 22 megahertz is S5. Andrew Berlin is S6. So we're pretty close on this one. And it's actually interesting to note and you guys actually now, at least help me confirm that we all have pretty much noise. It's something that's everywhere, and that I'm not the only one. Kimberly George says she got S5 on 22 megahertz in California. That's cool. It's not cool that we have S5, but it's cool to know that at least we all share the same problem, and it's that we have high noise levels. Man, I remember in the 80s when I was listening, you know what? I had noise floor noise. That 22 megahertz would be at, the S meter would have been at 0. I would have the really, really basic noise floor. 3.5 and 22 megahertz from Jim James. That's good. Really good. Huh. So that was a nice little exercise here to get the noise floor from everyone on different frequencies. And at least I now know that I'm not that bad on the noise, actually. And that, I'm planning on tweaking my antennas a little bit because I have this crazy idea of actually extending my long wire in the backyard, which is about 50 feet right now. And I've spotted a way that I could actually probably have 100 feet long wire if I extend it to across my neighbor's yard. It would be so high in the air that it would never, never, never be a problem for anyone. The only thing is I need to go to my neighbor's yard and actually find a way to put the wire to a wood pole. There's a telephone in the backyard here. We have telephone poles, and they were actually changed a few years ago, so they're brand new. I could actually hook my wire to that telephone pole, which is at the complete opposite end of my neighbor's backyard, and I would put it quite high in the air, and I would say that from there to here, I'd probably get close to 100 feet, and I'd be just curious to see the effect. As the vault says, he suspects that if I extend my long wire, I'll pick up more noise. That is true. That is a possibility that I would get more noise. But I'm at least just to try it, because I'm a curious guy, and you know what? I need to try it for myself to really know how it would work. Harry Cat 5e, my neighbor is cool with that. My neighbor is something like 80-year-old woman that lives alone. Her husband died about 2 years ago, and she lives alone in her home. And what happens is I actually do a lot of little things to help her. So, if I tell her that I want to go and hook up a little piece of wire and explain it to her, I'm pretty sure she's going to say, no problem. The problem would probably be if she ever either moves or dies, and there's new neighbors, then it's going to get more complicated for me. But for now, you know what? I help her. I go out and I shovel her yards and stuff like that. And so, she likes me. And I think that's the cool thing, because, I have a wire in the neighbor's tree. So at least if she likes me, she doesn't really, care too much about that. And because it's always complicated. Antennas are very, very complicated for one thing, because everybody thinks that when you have an antenna, it means that you're gonna probably interfere with something. It comes from, here in the 70s, it was really, really crazy. In the 70s, CB radio was extremely popular. And there would be like CBers across town, and just on the street where I lived, there would be like 4 or 5 CBers, including myself. And back then, cable was not very popular, especially in the early 80s. So basically, you'd hear CBers on your TV and in your radio and your sound system and so on. And people got this idea that, if you put an antenna up, you're a CBer or some sort of guy that's going to make interference, So it's something. Anthony Tobin, Andy Tobin, welcome to the Hangout. Cool live feed ID. Seriously looking into getting into shortwave listening, and could use some help finding appropriate equipment to do so. Well, this is a great channel for that. If you want to have help, know what you need as equipment. You can start out small with cool little receivers like the Degen D1103 or the Texan PL660 or 880, which are great little portable shortwave radios. By spending not too much money, you'll know if you really like it, because that's the first thing of a hobby. You can also check, garage sales and flea markets, and maybe pick up an old an old tabletop receiver for not too much money. That could be interesting. And that's what I would do, basically, is start spending not too much money on a radio, because you want to know if you'll like it and if it's going to be fun. And if you get serious, then you get to a higher end radio like this ICOM or something like that. But I think starting small is a good thing. So let's I'm going to continue a little bit more. We're already at 2 hours 40 minutes into our a special tuning hangout, and you know, I'm having fun. We're doing a lot of things. Comparing our noise level was really cool. So actually, you guys gave me hope that it's not that bad where I am actually. So let's check 10 megahertz and down and see what we can hear in the 31 meter band. So we were at the BBC. So this was the BBC. I'm going to continue going downwards.
ومتى يمكن اللجوء إلى مواقع هذه الطرق في أي شكل أو أي من الحالات النداء التي تستدعي منا اللجوء إليها، وخاصة ليس فقط في حال التعرض الدول العربية إلى أخطار داخلية ولكن أيضا
9870 is the broadcasting of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in Arabic. 151110. Okay, I'm going to check that. 15110. Yep. It is not Spanish. This is the Voice of America from the Ascension Island transmitter site. It is transmitted to West Africa, and it is in some kind of African language. I don't know what BM stands for. BM. I don't know what BM is. I'd have to look at the chart of the language what that is. BM, but probably some kind of African language. So this is Voice of America, James 15110, and it's pretty strong here too. S9. So this is transmitted from Ascension Islands in the Atlantic Ocean, South Atlantic Ocean, my friend. And it's a 30-minute transmission from Voice of America that is Monday to Friday. So it's easy to it's easy to go across this. As for your question, if I use narrow or wide on AM, I never really use wide. Technically, when you're on AM mode, it is AM narrow, and if I press again, for example, now I'm in the wide. I've never used that on shortwave because the wide is way too wide for shortwave listening because the filter is way too big. So if you have stations close together, it's kind of difficult in the wide portion. You know where I would probably use the wide setting on AM? If I listen to a medium wave, very strong medium wave or AM broadcast in the medium wave band, then the wide mode might be good because you do get more audio frequency, so the sound is actually better. You got more audio frequencies out of the radio, but I've never used the wide on this radio. I think it is close to useless personally, but you know, it's there. So let's go back 9870. I'm going to use this is broadcasting of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Una persona senza gioia, quella persona non è un vero credente. إن فرح الإيمان أي فرح الدين هو معيار الإيمان في وبدون هذا الفرح لا يمكن للمرء أن يكون مؤمنا حقيقيا. Signore, grazie di essere esultanti nella speranza. نسأل الرب أن يمنحنا نعمة أن نبتهج بالرجاء.
Susan in California asked me, how do I know all of these stations, what they are? Well, you know, there's no big secret about this. I actually use the EIBI space.de frequency list. You know, when you go to the EIBI space.de, actually there's, you know, their frequency lists are in by time or by frequency. So what I do is I fire up the by frequency list and I go to the frequency and check what transmissions are on at that time that are possible to my target area that I could hear. So you know, it's sometimes you'll see 2 or 3 transmissions that are possible. Then you have to use your knowledge, you know, using the knowledge that on 15110 at, you know, this time, and with the language that you hear, trying to ID what language it is. You know, for example, another transmission on 15110 was CRI and Mandarin. Well, I know that that was not Mandarin because it did not sound like Chinese at all. And because the transmission was from Ascension Islands directed to West Africa, so it basically is transmitted north, there's a good chance that it is Voice of America. So I am pretty sure that 15110 was Voice of America. So that's pretty much what I do. David says, to me, the wide AM filter is useful to listen to 15 kilohertz wide CRI signals. It makes them sound great if there's music even more. Well, that's pretty much what I say, David. You use it on CRI when you have a great signal. I would probably use it on a medium wave signal. When a signal is very strong, the wide does give you much more audio frequency. It's really richer, so you have better sound. And if there's some music, it is true that it probably sounds better when you use the wide than when you use the narrow. That's for sure. Andy Tobin says he had an Alecrafter boat anchor radio, shortwave radio in the 80s, and they really enjoyed shortwave listening. But then when he returned to college years later, thought he was still in storage, but got lost or stolen. Things. Yeah, these were great radios. The Alecrafters are fantastic shortwave receivers. Unfortunately, it's really unfortunate that you lost that, because I think it would have been a good shortwave radio even today. Jim James says, can you share your thoughts on as to why so many new shortwave radios come out each year, yet shortwave for a lot of people is defunct? and it's certainly not like it used to be in the 60s when you first started listening. You know what? It is defunct, not for everyone. When you live in a very, let's say, in North America and Europe, okay, we do live, and even more in North America, I would say, because Europe, you guys have countries of varying levels of technology. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you compare France and Germany and England to Romania and you know, these other countries that were of the Eastern Bloc at a certain point, the level of advanced technology, it varies from country to country. So there's still a reason for some transmissions, and it shows because there's more transmissions on shortwave to Europe than there are to North America. But in North America, pretty much everyone has decided that shortwave's obsolete, and it's something that's not required anymore. And the higher noise level probably helped a lot of people just say, well, you know, shortwave's not useful anymore. And yet, you are right in saying there's a lot of new shortwave radios out there. We have what, the new Eton. We have Texan, that is that's a lot of new models from Texan. And you know what? That's because there's still a market, first of all. Just look at the people that I have on my channel. The number of people that comes to my channel that bought either a Texan or Degen for a main reason, because they weren't able to find a shortwave radio at any local electronics store. But behold, in the internet, they had these Texan and Degen receivers and decided they would buy one. Eton and Grundig, which are pretty much the same, still put out shortwave radios because there are still people buying them, that's for sure. And also because in different markets, it's different. In Asia, shortwave is very big. And basically, if you would go to China and you'd listen with your shortwave radio, you'd be back in the 1960s and 70s and 80s, where a ton of stations are jam-packed together on all the frequency ranges. Because over there, one of the easy ways to listen to broadcast is shortwave, because when your country is rather big, an FM station transmits but is received only maybe 100 miles away. Shortwave, one shortwave transmitter can cover an whole country if you choose the correct frequency. So in Asia, shortwave is still very strong. In Africa, shortwave is still very strong because there's, you know, because of the poverty level there, a lot of the listening they'll do is on the shortwave bands. It does tend to change, you know, there's a lot of FM outlets in Africa coming here and there, and but you know that when you look at the coverage that stations actually do, there's still a lot to Africa, still a lot to Asia. These are the great markets. And you know what? The Texan radios, I would say that a lot of them are probably made with the idea that they're going to be sold in Asia and China first. But because there's a possibility of selling it somewhere else, why not? And that's where here in North America, some of us will buy these receivers. Yet, I would bet that for a lot of people at Texan and at these, you know, Chinese companies, the primary market for them is probably China, because Chinese people do buy shortwave radios. It is a great way to get news, and don't forget that it's a great way to get news from other sources than the government sources, which are not always the best sources, especially in Asian countries. And so, you know, it's still something that is popular in many parts of the world. Shortwave is still there, and it's still going to stay for a long time. Where the market is making it bad is here in North America, and even in Europe. You know, you guys are slowly losing different transmissions from different areas that are to Europe. So, you know, Harry Cat 5e says, I got into shortwave radio when I got this old boombox. It was only 6 to 18 megahertz. Yeah, a lot of these radios have this very limited range. 9755, I have S9 plus 10. Here's about S9, and it's Vatican radio from what I see here in Arabic. Minus 620, very strong. This is Radio Exterior de España, 9620, Radio Exterior de España. Richard, like Richard says, I use also the narrow 5 kilohertz filter for international broadcasts, which is for shortwave. It's, you know, the wise choice, because the spacing of the different channels are meant for 5 kilohertz filters, basically. So that's why I rarely use the wide. So very strong Radio Exterior de España, 9620. Money 590 would be the voice of the Islamic Republic of Iran. 9590. Yeah, Harry Cat 5e, that's a great idea. You know what? If I had a tree visible from a window, that's basically what I would do. You take a little piece of copper wire and take a small, if the trees in your yard, it's not much of a problem, but if the trees in a neighbor's yard, you take a very small piece of copper wire and you put a little, you know, something at the end to make it a little bit heavy, not too heavy. And you just throw it in trees, and you know, you just use that as an antenna. That's basically what I have. And what I did is I sent it in the tree. I threw it in the tree from my 3rd-story balcony here, and I did that 3 or 4 times. And the 4th time, when I actually pulled on it, it basically just tightened around the tree, so I couldn't really take it out anymore. If I wanted to take down my wire, I couldn't anymore. I'd have to just cut it off, and it's going to stay in the tree because it's really stuck there now. And so, and it's really well stuck because that wire has been there for, I don't know, at least 4 or 5 years, and it's still holding, and it held through the big snowstorms we had. It held through the very strong thunderstorms in the summer. So you know, it's a great idea, I think. And you know, as long as you do it safely. Richard says Spain is S9 plus 20 booming in Sherbrooke. Very cool. And 9590 is S9 plus 10, and I'm at about S9, so you're a little stronger than me. There's some carrier with nothing on it on 9570. That's interesting. No signal, no voice.
المستشار في مكتب السموم وزير الدفاع أكد في إجاز يومي عن عمليات عاصفة الحزم أن المقصود
9555 is the broadcasting of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Arabic 9555.
القواعد الجوية وتدمير الطائرات ومراكز القيادة والسيطرة والاتصالات وتدمير الصواريخ البالستية. تقدم الرئيس اليمني عبد ربه منصور هادي وصل إلى الرياض. وزير خليكم صوتنا على التعاون ونتعاون بكم نحدد الحوادث.
9530 is a station called Radio Akbar Mufriha from it's HCJB, actually calling themselves HCJB Radio Akbar Mufriha, and it is from the Ascension Islands, transmitted to West Africa. So it's transmitted via the Ascension Islands relay, and it's a 30-minute broadcast from HCJB called Radio Akbar Mufriha in some kind of African language. Horizontal versus vertical long wire. Well, one thing's for sure is that an antenna has to be in the sign. Okay, there's a basic thing about radio waves that's called polarization. Polarization means that if you send a signal with a vertical antenna and you send a signal with a horizontal antenna, if you want to have the maximum signal, you need to match. So you need to have either a vertical antenna or a horizontal antenna. It has to match. On shortwave, one of the things that happen is that signals, with all the propagation that goes through them, even though they do maintain part of their polarization, they are kind of mishmashed and messed up. And an example of that is when I started building my loop antenna that I'm going to hopefully complete in the next few days. One of the things that the guy says on the web page is that a loop antenna usually is very directional, and you'll have to place it in the direction of incoming signal. And somebody asked, okay, well, what if I wanted to have in a fixed spot? Will I lose some stations? And what he answered was that, look, on shortwave, signals are coming from everywhere because of the multiple ops and the way that the sky waves falls down. So even if your antenna is not totally, you know, in the direction of the signal, there's a good chance you'll still hear it. And you hear that very often because very often you'll see an amateur radio operator that has a directional antenna, and he's still going to hear a station that's what we call in the back of his antenna, where normally he shouldn't because he's not pointing in that direction. And that shows you a little bit that sky waves, when they come back down, are basically mishmashed a lot. And so you know, horizontal is good because you can actually have longer wires which technically will receive more signal. But there's one thing that you got to remember. If you put a long wire outdoors, it has to be as high as possible from the ground, because your antenna has interactions with the ground. Here, I'm not too bad because since I live in the third floor of my building, I'm pretty high. And the wire that I have in the industry is very high. But if I live in a small house and have a wire that's only 3 or 4 feet from the ground, the closer you are to the ground with your wire, the less you'll have good performance, because the ground has a lot of absorption and there's interaction. And technically, the longer the wire, the higher it has to be from the ground. But you know, don't have to go crazy with that also. But it is important, especially for amateur radio operators, because if they want to transmit when transmission, it's even more important to be correctly installed with your antennas. So technically, the higher the antenna, the better. And you know, an horizontal wire has the advantage that you can really put it very long. If you put a vertical wire, there's a limit to how high you're going to be able to install that wire. And you know what? There's a lot of types of shortwave antennas out there. As you say, your antenna is like a V. It could be, you know, you could have probably put an antenna outdoor that you don't even know, and is what we call an inverted V. There's all sorts of different types of antennas. If you look on the web, and you know, I had a little booklet many years ago. Radio Canada International had a fantastic little booklet which was shortwave antennas, and it had the design of maybe I don't know, 10 or 15 different wire antennas that you could put up. And there's a lot of stuff that you can put up. You know, if you have the space, you could put what we call dipoles. Dipoles are antennas that are cut for frequency ranges. So you can have, you know, 10 different wires in your yard, all of different lengths, so that they are going to be good for different frequency range. There's a lot of things we can do with antennas. It's really amazing. That's true also. As Richard says, a vertical antenna is omnidirectional, but usually has higher noise levels. Horizontal is more directional, but much quieter noise. And that is true. That's one thing you'll have to know also. For example, my wire, it is important to note that my antenna is north-south direction here. And that's something important to know, because a long wire antenna is directional. It tends to be best at both ends, if I remember right. Maybe Richard can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think each extremities is where the reception is best, and on the sides is where the reception is the least good. So technically, a DXer that wants to hear some exotic stations from, let's say you want to hear, you know, stations from Africa, from where I live, well, then you'll have, my antenna technically is not very good because it's not pointing in the good directions for that. But like I said, shortwave signals are kind of mishmashed when they come here, so it, you know, it does have an effect, but we can't go crazy on that either. Cindy Clover, hey Jill, got 9530 plus 9 here. Mike in the UK with his Drake R8A with a Walbrook loop antenna. That's really good, and love that Drake. Drake radio is fantastic radio. Richard, 9530 is S9 plus 10. Asinya language, thanks for the language. A new one for me here. Yeah, I've heard that one. You know, Richard, I've heard that station for the first time about 2 weeks ago and actually made a video. I never heard that before. So it seems so it's some kind of transmission from HCJB. Boy, I miss HCJB from the 80s when they had their English language broadcasts, which were really, really cool. Javisco, have you ever heard any unusual transmissions on UVB76 on 4625, apart from the usual buzzing? Personally, I've only heard the buzzing. Nothing else than the buzzing. But if you go to a lot of web pages, including there's a lot of YouTube videos also that have that. You'll have videos where they actually show you voice transmissions in somewhere in the middle of the buzzing, which is very interesting. But I've heard UVB 76 on 4625. I've heard it also on the top of 13 megahertz, somewhere like 13900, where I've heard them many times in the late afternoons here. So they are also on 13 megahertz. But I've never heard anything else except the buzzing. So, but I would like, you know, it would be really cool to have something else. RCA 224, hi Joel, just got in. Welcome to the hangout, my friend. Nothing fancy. We're tuning the bands, checking out signals. We've been at it now for what, 3 hours? So really nice. You know, I like doing these little things. Richard, not quite. Horizontal receives stronger signals to the sides at 90 degrees to the antenna. Oh, that's interesting. I always thought it was the opposite. Okay, so now north-south would receive best signals from the east and west. Okay, okay. Probably, you know, sometimes you read something too fast and you're like a little. I always taught that long wire. So okay, on the sides, 90-degree angle. Okay. Okay, let's be just checking out here because I'm so curious about this. So I check here. Okay, it's interesting to note here that the directional properties yeah. That's interesting. I'm just looking at some things here. Huh. Okay. Well, you know. Okay, so the best signal is at 90-degree angle, so it means I'm actually receiving signals east-west better than north-south. Okay. But you know what? I receive signals from everywhere, so it shows you that even though it does have directional capacities, it still receives, you know, from pretty much every direction. So this is the end of the transmission. This is their kind of interval signal. And here it is, just gone off the air at 22:15, like it said on the schedule here that I had from that station.
It really, I would say, it went into decline under his son,
9475.
Edward VI. And in the era of Edward VI, we see that usury, or the charging of interest on loans, that had been illegal. And
WTWW in Lebanon, Tennessee, USA.
He was being manipulated by his counselors, and that's when usury was legalized in Britain in 1548. And from that point onward, you also had the beginnings of the enclosure laws, which was the taking away of the right of the English people to farm freely in these common lands which had existed. They were basically window out of their land. And from that, you have a propagation process beginning. You have the first real beginning of a class of white people in Great Britain known as Propagation. And once you have that, of course, you have
9445 if you want to listen to All India Radio, which is in English for the next, it's still 15 minutes left. 9445, I'm going to check 11670. Even better on 11670. All India Radio, 11670 and 9445. English language, and they're going to end in about 15 minutes. This is always a good reception here in Montreal, 9445 and 11670 for All India Radio. Sinchi 558, greetings from Ecuador. Hey, welcome, my friend from Ecuador. Welcome to the hangout. We're tuning the shortwave radio bands. You can ask any questions and let us know that you are here. We've been tuning the bands for more than 3 hours now. 93.95, which is now the 24 or almost 24-hour a day True News broadcast out of WRMI. Gone is the Global 24 signal on 93.95. Richard says All India Radio S9 plus 20 at his location.
But we say all things are for others.
Overcomer Ministry on 93.70. Coming from
and when all things shall be attributed unto him, then
WWRB in Manchester, Tennessee.
All things unto him, that God may be all in all. In the beginning, God. And in the end, it will be God. For yourself, Brother Noah, R.I.P.
Another one's like an apprenticeship. Well, some years ago, I was starting to become a baker. I was going in a bakery and I was baking bread. The way I learned
WWCR Nashville, Tennessee, 9350.
School things and reading books about bakery. I learned by going to my master and saw how my master did it. And then he did not teach me how to do it, but he showed me how to do it. And he explained me how to do it. And when I made mistakes, he said how I should do it from now on and help me that way. As a baker, it was easy for me to learn because I didn't experience that fear because I was never alone. But today we have a church that is very similar with fear because you have never tried, you have never done it, and you have heard everything you should do. But the step from listening and knowing we should do it to actually do it is so huge. It's so big.
Hey guys, I'm Rich. I just received an email from some African guy that says that he's got 10 million euros for me. Should I answer?
Can I baptize him? And I noticed on his week.
Life that is not designed for physical preservation, but for eternal spiritual happiness in relationship with God and relationship to others. So, Paul said, I'm dead to the law because the law.
That's WIND in Red Lion, Pennsylvania.
Anymore, and we don't observe those restrictions on food anymore. Since you are keeping the law of Moses, do you really believe all the Bible? Yes, I believe the Bible.
Let's see what we have in upper sideband and the 8 megahertz band. This is Weatherfax. I believe 9110 is out of Boston, Massachusetts. They send weather charts. Actually, it could be an interesting little experiment here to decode the weather broadcast here. I'm going to plug it in here, and I'm going to get MixW software. Not MixW, FLDG. I'm going to try to check it out here. Show you guys decoding of Weatherfax broadcast. Weatherfax. Here we go. Well, this is really a Weatherfax broadcast. They broadcast several hours in the evening. 9110 is nominal frequency, but in upper sideband, you always tune a little below. And give you an idea here of what you decode out of Weatherfax. Weatherfax are basically a radio, shortwave radio way of sending out, you know, the good old black and white faxes that we receive by phone. It's technically the same type of procedure, but it's in radio way, radio format. So they could, you know, send ice charts, weather charts, all sorts of information that could be useful for boats, for example. Most of these stations are marine stations because they send out charts to help different boats on the ocean, and, you know, tell them, for example, here one of the stations that we had before was Canadian Forces Center. They would send out charts for the ice on the Atlantic Ocean, so that everybody knows, you know, where the icebergs are, and so on. And there's still a lot of these broadcasts, and you can decode them with different software. I use FLDG, which is pretty good. Jim James says Air India coming in at +9 on 94.45. Says he likes All India Radio because it sounds like it's stuck in the 60s, and now things how things used to sound. Yeah, All India Radio sounds exotic. You have the impression that you sounds like, you know, this really exotic station from somewhere around the world, and it's nice. Richard says I should answer in a hurry on my $1 million from that African guy. Yeah, Richard says the Weatherfax is a good decode where he is. And hey, Lyndon Price, welcome from San Diego. Welcome to the Hangout. Nice to have you along. We've been at it for almost 3 hours and a half here, listening to shortwave signals. So here, I'm going to put the camera and show you guys what a decoding of a Weatherfax chart looks like. So this is the chart that's coming off of that signal. So what you see here is the chart being decoded slowly on my computer. It's basically a weather chart. When you see the lines here, these are cold fronts. This one's a warm front. You know, when it's like they have little triangles on the lines, these are cold fronts usually. And you have L, which means there's a low pressure here. I could almost be a weatherman. I can read these charts, so and so you have the chart slowly decoding. What you see here, the lines, these are the lines of barometric pressure. And usually when you leave the decoding going well, you can see by how it's decoding where this chart is actually showing. And actually, it's sideways. Here is Florida, and here's the island of Cuba. I can see that here. So here's Florida, island of Cuba is here. So this chart is for basically the east coast of the United States and a little part of the Caribbean. And here you've got the information, date, time, and what, here it says surface analysis. So this is what it looks like. This is a weather chart being decoded by Shortwave. So sorry for that. I just went to the little men's room. So you can see that it's really decoding the weather chart really well. And this is probably actually one of the most clearest weather charts I've ever decoded. It's very, very, very crisp, very easy to read and to see what information is on this map. You can see here that the Great Lakes are here, which means I'm somewhere here. And we can see that there's a cold front moving down, and that's why it's going to be colder tonight, actually. This must be the cold. Here's a bridge of high pressure on the map. So this is amazing. And this signal means this is the end of the chart transmission, and you see it cleared automatically on my screen. Usually they have this few minutes of, waiting where there's nothing, and after a minute or two, you'll hear another tone, and you'll have another chart that's going to be broadcast. And actually, if you look for Weatherfax transmissions on Shortwave, you'll see that there are schedules, and you'll know which types of charts they're going to transmit and so on. So here's the next chart, the next transmission of their Weatherfax broadcast, actually. So this is another chart. They're going to send another type of information with this. Jim James is using FLDG. He says not as clear. Well, to have a good Weatherfax decoding, you really need to have a good signal. It's very important. Very important. Richard says, yeah, very clear here too for a change. It is true. It's just so rare to have a chart, Weatherfax chart that is so clear. Usually it's full of garbage, and the fading signal makes these lines, and it's very, very rare that I have such a nice chart. Richard says shift is 800 Hz on multi-PSK. Sunny Clover says he's got New York ATC coming and the UK on 13306 USB at +7. Yeah, it's pretty strong. 13306 is one of the great frequencies to listen to them, actually. They usually come in very well here too in our part of the world in Montreal. Hey, take care, Richard. I'm also going to supper very soon, so not much more left in this hangout before I leave also. So have a good supper. Take care. It's NMF Fax from Boston. The station is NMF. So guys, I am also going to leave. It was a really cool hangout. We did 3 hours and a half, which was pretty fun. I hope you guys had fun tuning with me. It was really fun also to test the different noise levels everybody had. Sorry to have to leave now, but I am getting hungry. I have to make myself a little supper here also. And I'm gonna take it easy and watch a little bit of television also. So I'm leaving you guys with this. Vault says, I wonder why there seems to be no more modern image transfer protocols for HF. I would expect data compression plus ECC like Reed-Solomon to achieve higher efficiency work, lower signal to noise ratio. Well, you know what? I think for anything that's commercial, they've decided that, you know, it's pretty much the end slowly. Even the fax transmissions we have less than we have used to in the past. But you know what? There are new higher efficiency transmissions for HF and digital modes. And you know where you get those? You get those in the amateur radio bands. The amateur radio bands are full of new and exciting signals that really, really stretch the quality. And you know, some of these are amazing. I remember the other day when I decoded an Olivia 16500. Man, that signal was in the noise, and I was barely hearing it, and it was still decoding perfectly on my computer. I was amazed at how well and how good quality that was. So take care, guys. I hope you enjoyed the hangout, and this is the as you see here, North America with Florida right here. This is another little chart, and it's telling, it's giving some frequencies here of gale warnings, storm warnings, and storm center right here in the Atlantic Ocean. It's really cool. So have a great time, a great evening. Hey, Kimberly, have a great evening also. Yeah, it's been fun, and you know, we're gonna have more of those. For those of you that don't know, don't forget our next official hangout. The next one that is scheduled is Sunday, April 5th at 2000 hours UTC. So hope you can be there and you can join us in the next hangout where we'll have news, comments, and of course, as usual, answer your questions. And take care, everyone. It's been really, really cool to have you guys tuning the bands with me, comparing signals. Wow, that's hard to say. Comparing signals, and you know, it's always a great, great pleasure to have you guys around, and you girls. So take care, everyone, and see you soon. And if I don't do another unannounced one, well, we'll see each other April the 5th at 2000 hours UTC. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.